This feels weird. I haven't done this in a long time. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Letter by Letter. This is my channel where I'm going to go ahead and break down a bunch of different books I have read and reread and give my honest thoughts on them because I have no one else to talk to about this stuff. So, the first book I'm going to be reviewing, as you can tell by the title and by the thumbnail, is going to be Immortal. I don't know if you can see the sheen. There you go. Immortal by Miss Lynn. Got the special edition here. This is rented from my library because I don't love to buy books without reading them first, and it's beautiful. But we'll get to that in a second. I'm gonna rate the book on a couple different metrics: character development, world building, dialogue, and lastly, theme. Let's start with a general summary of what's going on here. And I think the best way for me to do that is to kind of unpack the author's own words about this book. So, if you guys don't know, according to Sulin Tan's own review that she posted herself on Goodreads, Immortal is a standalone romantic fantasy novel, and it centers around two characters. You have our main character, Lynn, and you have the God of War, whose name I believe is Zhang Zhou, or I need to double check. The fact that I don't know off the top, Zhang Wei, sorry. I always referred to him as the God of War. Him having a name felt, even throughout the book, felt a little ominous. It felt a little vulnerable for him, but that's a theme that it explores a lot. And so, in her own words, Sulin Tan says it's about these two characters, set in the same world as her previous titles, Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which if you haven't read it is fantastic, but we'll get to that later. The story features some new characters and can be read wholly independent of the Celestial Kingdom duology, which I have because I have not finished the Celestial Kingdom duology as of the time of this taping. It's inspired by elements of Chinese mythology, and the theme of the book is that there is a mortal or human realm under influence of the realm of immortals that was taken during a war of different immortal clans. And because of that, and because of the realm of the immortal world serves, as they were the newest kingdom at the time, they got to take the land of Tianxia, or Tianxia? I'm not great with Mandarin. To have as their own. In turn, they rule over and they protect the city of Kunlun, which, if you are aware of if not aware of what Kunlun is a mystical city in Chinese mythology. I don't know if you even know if it's a real city. I'll put somewhere in the video a picture of it if it is. But how it works is that they protect that spot, and in turn, the immortals protect Tianxia. This book has a lot of really, really good features, but let's of course start with the character development. So character development generally, as I strike my mic, is very good, and it focuses mainly on one character. Here, the character that needs the most development for the point of the story. There will be spoilers throughout this, just to let you know. Should have started that earlier. The main character, Miss Lynn, is a weak and ill princess to this kingdom of Tianxia until she is healed by her grandfather after the Wujian. The Wujian? I don't know how to say it. Forgive me. He is supposed to retrieve this flower known as the Divine Lotus for the gods, and for what purpose we don't know. And eventually we learn it's to heal the God of War. But unfortunately, because of a wound that Miss Leanne suffers, she's ill already. She was already weak, always ill, but she was on the verge of death. And so she was given the lotus. Her grandfather, the one who ruled previously, died of a heart attack whilst being confronted by the queen and the God of War. Upon no one knowing that she had the lotus, she had to rule over her kingdom without telling anybody. The only people who knew were her Aunt Shao and her best friend, whose name I also can never remember, even though I just finished this book. Regardless, it's a powerful read. It's compelling. I am recording this just off the back of finishing it, and so I maybe should have given it a second read, but honestly, I don't have time because this book is overdue and I have $25 in fees to take care of. Regardless, this book features a lot of good things. The character writing is immaculate. Lynn goes from, jaded at the Immortals to feeling these interesting feelings about the God of War and knowing how resourceful an alliance could be. He wants to use him as leverage to go ahead and negotiate freedom for her people and for her kingdom. However, she doesn't do that because they betray her, because the gods find out, the Immortals, I should say, the Immortals find out that she is in possession of the lotus, the divine lotus. So they try to force it out of her. But they can't because, damn, that was loud. Because it must be given freely. But they couldn't. So the God of War attempted to seduce Lynn. Zhongwei is his name, I should say, is Zhongwei. And Lynn refused. So she grew bitter. She returned. But Zhongwei was ever relenting. He was nonstop, furiously trying to get her to get it back, because we learned whilst they were fighting that Zhongwei was poisoned and he was dying, and eventually they form an uneasy truce after the Celestial Kingdom is attacked, or after, the Land of the Golden Desert is attacked. Celestial Kingdom is somewhere else entirely, because this is such place, while in the same world, is not the same as the Celestial Kingdom. Let me be clear about that. And so they strike up an uneasy alliance, and eventually they grow closer. They meet the people they're supposed to meet, and eventually it all comes spilling out. When eventually Lynn is captured by the Wuxin, or Wuxin, I think? Wuxin? I don't know how to quite say it. X's are hard. She learns from the pool of destiny, or the mirror of destiny, that she is in fact an old immortal. The memories were gone from her, and they showed her two paths. Pick one destiny or another. Become Wuxin or become immortal. And she said, no, I'm going to pick my own destiny. And that's where we're going to talk about the theme in interlacing with the character. So, Lynn is the person that is developing here. She decides to pick her own destiny, and that's hammered throughout the entirety of this book. That's the theme. Pick your destiny. Which, is it corny? A little bit. But I think the way the messaging is phrased, while very blunt and to the point, broadly specifies to a lot of the themes. These are people who have been under a way of life for so long, and Lynn is tired of it, and, she keeps getting towards, you have to do this, or these are the things you must do, and she was tired of it. She wanted to pick her own way. And that's the crux of what's happening in this book. She wants to pick her own way. Now, does she end up doing so? Yes. The book ends very happily and nicely, as a lot of, young adult books do. It has a very nice close. It doesn't necessarily leave the door open for much. It's a very nice conclusion. Could there be more to follow? There probably could be. But I think this is a very nice standalone book. The pacing is a little weird at first, because Sulantan, you're expecting the pacing of Daughter of the Moon Goddess, or the second book, which I believe is called Heart of the Sun Warrior. you're expecting that kind of pacing, much slower because it's happening over multiple books. No, this is one 450-page novel that is, from top to bottom, very well paced for its runtime. Just under 500 pages. You think you hit a climax very early, and then you don't. This book is segmented into 3 parts. The part where we have the first portion where she is just the budding queen, essentially, the lady of Tianxia. She's the leader of Tianxia. Brand new. You have her bringing up the first couple chapters are basically her tragedy and losing her grandfather. Those are the first couple chapters. You think everything's happening really quickly, and then you reach the end of part 1. The end of part 1, by the way, where she goes, she has to do this diplomatic mission to go up to the heavens, to the clouds, where the immortals live, and she has rules while she's there, and she's not allowed to enter the South Garden, but guess what? She enters the South Garden, and she meets the queen, Kai Hong, and the queen wants her to do 4 lashes of some element, I guess, where you're basically just whipped with this massive magical whip. And eventually, after all that happens, they all gather around, and boom, they're attacked. So they flee whilst they're trying to murder, or not really murder, extract the Divine Lotus from Lynn. Because let's be clear, she's dead without this thing. She's very dead without this thing. But so is Ngl I. So the goal is to extract it because it already healed Lynn. But the goal was to extract it from her, but it had to be willing. And that's the point. Nothing can be forced upon you. You must pick your own way. And that's kind of the general theme of this book. It's very thought out with how it delivers its messaging. It's subtle all throughout. So the first part does a very good job of emphasizing that at the end. Hey, this is you're trying to ambush me to get me to give this up. It's not working. I've tried all my seduction. I've tried all this because I'm a hot Chinese god, but it hasn't worked. Then end of part 1 sees these beasts invade the temple, the Golden Desert, or rather the palace, and she uses this time to steal the God of War's sword, which previously could not have been wielded by anyone else. And she ran away back to the mortal realm, and she hid it. Right? And then, but Ngl I doesn't give up that easily. He comes retrieving, and he, full of guilt. But, at this point, Lynn is badly hurt, damaged, and that's what part 2 is. Part 2 is him winning back a lot of that trust. Him training her. She lies about his best friend to keep saying that they're betrothed, even though they're not, just to get him just to irritate him. She's very sassy towards him. It's very kind of charming. And ultimately, a lot of part 2 is that kind of redemption arc. Hey, we are going to work at this. We're gonna do it as much as possible. It is, and that is a lot of what this book is, right? That second part is a lot of them rebuilding that trust, and eventually, they're like, hey, we're gonna go to Kunlun. We're gonna meet, this ancient grandmaster who is, the oldest of all the immortals. He doesn't involve himself in any of the affairs of the different clans or anything. His goal is to guard the Tree of Life. Eventually they get ambushed in Kunlun. She dives into this water, which she's not supposed to, but she ends up rescuing a boy who turns out to be the ancient grandmaster. And there he gives her one gift, basically the shield from the Tree of Life, essentially, from their version of Yggdrasil, if you know Norse mythology at all. Which seems minor, but then you get to part 3, because right before part 2, guess what? She's kidnapped and sent into, I believe it was called Endless Dawn Palace, is where she ends up staying in that realm. And this power hungry guy named Dalen, I believe is his name. Let me just double check on that. Yep. Dalian, sorry. So Dalian is this power hungry leader who happens to also be Aunt Shou's son, which we learn later on. The Aunt Shou was a disguised Wujin. You don't know that going in. And part 3 is her being kidnapped and essentially having to play along with doing his plan to basically go to war with, well, basically devour the mortal realm and then go to war with the immortals. But he's a dictator. Everyone questions him. Lynn shows kindness where she can to the people, and it earns her a lot of favor, a lot of trust, and eventually she goes, like I said, to this mirror, this mirror of destiny, where they show her is this 2 destinies, and she says, I don't subscribe to either of those realities. I want to pick my own. And the mirror says, okay, but I can't guide you. You can pick one, and it would go exactly, and she couldn't change it. But instead, she picked her own. She got to be hybrid, right? And this is where you learn that where she gets memories back somehow. Ngl I manages to sneak his ass inside of this place, and then there's a fight. Ultimately, after it all, Dalian is very concerned. He's cautious. He's very paranoid, like a lot of dictators are. And eventually, they're getting ready to broach the wall that keeps them sealed into the nether realm, out into the mortal world. And instead, the god of war comes. There's a fight, and it's revealed that Dalian has been stealing their life source from them, starving his population. And so they turn on him. Dalian is killed, but they are sealed. Lynn and Ngl I are sealed inside the Netherrealm forever, or not really, because that's not how these books turn out. What happens is that Aunt Shou calls upon this boatman. This boatman, I cannot remember his name. What was his name as I double check? Got it. All right, my apology. His name is literally just Honored Boatman. That's what I thought. So the boatman is called and by Aunt Shou, who's the ruler of the Netherworld, and in order to cross, because he's the only one that can cross the realms, in order to leave, because he's, I guess, Chinese mythology's Charon, in a sense, if you're aware with Greek mythology. He's, I guess, the Charon of Chinese mythology. He basically tells them, hey, guess what? Everything you just remembered, you want to go back? It's got to go poof. Got to go by. Never get to remember it. Except for Lynn, because she is both mortal and immortal. Not quite mortal, not quite immortal. So, the moment offers her, she has to give up the memories of one life, one aspect. The memories of the mortal or the memories of the immortal. Now, maybe you might think, oh, just the memories of the mortal. She's a very young immortal, which they don't reference in this book. She's young. She's a couple centuries, I think. And that's pretty young, considering. So, what she does is she doesn't want to give up those memories, and so she was going to stay. But then 3 other people who you meet along the way, Aunt Shou and 2 generals, give a general, General Feng and Captain Lynn give up their memories in exchange to let them travel. They can never cross back there again, and that world is completely isolated. And that's how it ends, essentially. But they don't return together. It's magic. All of a sudden, she wakes up and she meets her mother for the first time, which is something that they don't talk about. Something I should have mentioned is that Lynn is actually the queen of the Golden Desert's daughter. They explain all of the situation with the curse and why they had to do what they did throughout the book, which I think you guys should read for yourself. It's wonderful and also a little confusing. And that will kind of go into my edit or my kind of review and why I did not give this, a super rave review. As it's a little bit hard to follow, but it's generally pretty good. Like I said, that's a lot of the character stuff and a lot of the theme that I've tackled there at once because they really intertwined really nicely. Next part I want to go into the world building. The world building is spectacular, but the problem is it's not fully developed. And the reason it's not fully developed is because this is a offshoot independent book, because you get a lot of the world building from Daughter of the Moon Goddess and Son, or what is it? Son of Heart of the Sun God, Heart of the Sun Warrior. That's what it is. Heart of the Sun Warrior. You get all of that, at least I imagine the second one, but you get a lot of that world building in that first book because it establishes everything, the base and the foundation. You get some small world building from Immortal, mostly in the first couple chapters, and whenever you enter a new part and you enter a new area, it's decent description, but the world building is, I think, a little lacking for me, just because I don't believe that it's truly expounded upon much in part one. In the mortal realm, I wish there could have been a little bit more, but that's just me. Once again, this is a small book. It's it's sub 500 pages, but generally, I think it's okay. It's not the worst I've ever read. It's solid. I really like the world building, and I think the world building in the Immortal realm could have been expounded. Not the Immortal realm, sorry. The Nether realm could have been expounded upon a little bit better. Those are just my thoughts on the world building. It's definitely the weakest point of this book, in my personal opinion, but I want to talk about the strongest point of this book, and the book that's going to put this really one over the edge when we get to my rating, and that's the dialogue. The dialogue between the characters is immaculate. I love the dialogue. I love the conversation. I love the style of how it's done, A young distrustful woman, a cold, a cool, chill god. Her quirky best friend and basically brother that she grew up with, and Chen Yang. How she treats her Aunt Chow with respect, the way she reacts to being betrayed, her ability to perceive is very incredible. The way that she communicates it is fantastic. I think the communication in this book is generally stunning, and I think the way that all the characters talk, especially as they have chemistry from the minute that the God of War and Lynn meet, it's pretty fantastic. The dialogue is amazing. I really like a lot of this book. One of my complaints is that it starts. I say the pacing's weird. It starts slow, but then it kicks off fast. So I'd say the first 5 chapters are pretty but then after that it kind of rockets. Once again, I'd say the first 50 pages could have been different, and that's always going to be a rough one, but I'm not mad at it because I managed to push through this, but I can see what might deter newer readers from this book, just because if they don't know the reputation that Su Lin Tan has for being a really good story writer, that they wouldn't have given this a second chance, and I definitely understand that. But my overall review, which I will go ahead and post my star review on Goodreads as well, if you want to go ahead and follow me, it's down there. I've decided to give this, I was really grappling with what to rate this. This book, by the way, has 7,847 ratings and 2,215 reviews on Goodreads. I might write one myself, But this is just me starting out this kind of hobby thing, just talking. So we're going to see if we get there. There's not even a script, as you could tell from the way I was talking. That'll change in the future. But this it's a good book. It's nice. I would probably rate it, or okay, on the Goodreads system, I've given it 4 out of 5 stars. I was tempted to just stick to 3. People love this book, and I understand why they love this book, but I don't know if it deserves a 4, but it doesn't deserve a 3. And that's my personal opinion. I know some people don't love it because it doesn't resonate with them enough and things like that. Just reading some of the reviews before I filmed this was a little tough with some of these people's perspectives. I don't know what they were expecting necessarily, but I don't know. I think this is a very solid book, a independent book and built in an already established world with incredible dialogue, mediocre world building, and solid character development. I know that might sound like 3-star writing, but generally, the world building is fantastic. Or not the world building, sorry, the dialogue. Sorry, the world building is fantastic, but the reason that it doesn't knock it down lower to like a 3 or even a 2 for me is that I've already read Daughter of the Moon Goddess. So for me, this is like losing some of the world building does not impact my enjoyment of the book because I understand fundamentally where this is coming from. Some other things I want to harp on about the book that I think is really good. People don't love to say this. Don't judge a book by its cover, but we do. We do. And the cover for this book is fantastic. I don't know if you guys can see it too well right here. I'll probably put a picture on the screen, but this cover is beautiful, and I will go ahead and show you guys. I don't know if it'll focus up, but these bright pink pages are really, really nice. It gives pop. It allows this cover to really kind of shine. It stands out when you're at a bookstore, and the inside art, I can't show you everything because this is a library book, but it is really, really, really nice. I'm trying not to damage it too much here, but this is fantastic, fantastic work. I genuinely think that the way you present a book helps me to praise it because I can give this someone's not going to get bored. Like, oh, it looks like a book. I'm like, oh, no, there's art. Oh, it's got cool pink pages and that. Like, there's a lot here. There's a lot here to draw you into. And even though it might have, particularly chapter 1 is not chapter 1, sorry, chapter 2 and 3 are not my favorite, but you get a lot of good, important information there, and you start to see the budding of a situationship that turns into a real romance between the two characters of Lynn and Ngl I. The resolve with her mother at the end is fantastic. The final resolve and how it all wraps up is really, really beautiful. I really do enjoy it. She does end up getting... It does have the happy ending. It does have the happy ending. It is just really... It's just really good. Like, the more I think about it, the more I talk out loud. It deserves 4 stars, and that's the thing. A lot of times when I give reviews... I'll give a book like a 3 or a 2, and I'm like, no, it's a 3 or a 4. Sometimes I'll say give a book a 5, and it's way lower after talking it out. So one of the reasons why I've chosen to do this. But yeah, that's my opinion. This is probably I can't give points on Goodreads. I'll go ahead and give this. It's like a 3.9 to 4.1, somewhere in there. It really hovers tight. The dialogue carries a lot of this book. It's fantastic. Just in that aspect. Generally, it's really good. I liked it. I guess the scale is for 4 stars on the website. I loved it. I did love it. Would I buy my own copy of this? Yes, I would. But I would only buy this edition. I would not buy the softcover that doesn't look like this. I want it to look like this. This is a beautiful book to have in a shelf, and I want it like that for not just display, just because it is a good book. But I'm curious to see what you guys think about this book. What are your thoughts? Let me know how you guys felt about the presentation of the antagonist, how it shifted back and forth. I want your take on the dialogue too. Am I on crack for saying the dialogue is really that good? I really loved it. Yeah, this is a great read. It's phenomenal. You guys should definitely pick this up. And I will be putting out more reviews. I'm going to try and do 1 a week. Some books that I haven't read, some books that I have read that I want to reread with some context. But for our first read, first thoughts, first impressions, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. But yeah, and most commented book at the end of the month of May. We'll go ahead and pick the next book I read, and I will go ahead and get it either at the library or on e-read because I don't want to end up wasting $30 on a book that I don't like. So, with that in mind, thank you all for watching. This is very long-winded, and hopefully I get to keep doing more of these. Take care. Have a nice day. Keep reading.